Hello, my name is Dietmar Doerschlag with Valiantys. Thank you so very much for joining me on this video. I'm a senior IT solutions consultant, business transformation consultant with Valiantys, and I work a lot in the Jira service management space for awesome clients in different industries. In this video, I want to present the solution that I was privileged to build for one of my clients recently. It is about how the IT change management process, which is of course very important in the ITIL framework, can be integrated across the application development lifecycle, specifically integration between Jira and JSM. Now, as we all know, Atlassian provides a variety of apps. We have many applications that are used by many different teams. Of course, software teams very often work in Jira, where they sprint in software development projects, a Scrum project or Kanban project to create awesome software. They also use other tools such as GitHub, of course, Confluence, etc. In the service management space, of course, the flagship product that I work in a lot is Jira Service Management, very often also paired up with tools such as Confluence, Loom, and other tools. Now, in the what Atlassian calls high velocity service management, there is a great integration opportunity between Jira and JSM that I want to demonstrate in this video on how I built out a solution. As we all know, in the service management lifecycle for developers, and I'm really talking more about the app dev lifecycle, teams build software, and they do this in tools such as Jira. They go through the software development lifecycle in Jira. And then, of course, there comes this point where that software needs to be deployed to production. And this is where Jira really can meet Jira service management. Very often, clients that I work with, they have a pretty significant footprint in Jira, as their development teams have been using Jira for quite some time. And they work with us to replace other software tools that they have in place for service management. And they want to replace those legacy tools because they really look at the tight integration across the Atlassian ecosystem, especially the integration between Jira and JSM. And one example where I was privileged to build this is for IT change management. And this is what I want to demonstrate in this video. So let's dive in. Now here I'm navigating to a IT service management portal that I spun up. And in this portal, we have, of course, a portal group for change enablement. And this is where any type of, for example, infrastructure changes would be launched. It could be a normal change, it could be an emergency change, or it could be a pre-approved standard change. So this is where infrastructure team would launch infrastructure change requests that really have nothing to do with application development changes. But what I want to demonstrate now is how change management in JSM can be integrated with the application development lifecycle in Jira. So what I did here is I have two spaces set up that I want to demonstrate this in. One is the ITSM space. This is where the change request will be created. This is where the change request will be managed through its approval cycle. Of course, it follows a comprehensive auditable approval process where various parties have to approve, assess and approve before a change gets deployed. So the change requests are really managed in the ITSM Jira Service Management project. But I also created an application development project, which is a Jira project, a Scrum project. That's where the development team works. What I'm going to demonstrate now is we're going to create a change request we're going to create a Jira ticket, a software development work item in the app dev project in Jira. And then I'm going to show you how via automation from the Jira ticket, we can automatically create a change request in the ITSM project. So let's go ahead and do that. I am now in the Jira project and I'm creating a new Jira software development ticket. And I'm just going to call this test ticket for video demonstration. This is just a simple work item in the Jira project. I gave it its own work type. I just call it app dev because I'm going to show you the unique workflow that follows that app dev Jira ticket. Right, and there of course could be additional screens here that come into play. And I'm creating, I should say, additional fields that come into play. And now I created this app dev ticket, ticket number 7. Let's bring up this ticket. So I'm now a member of the software development team, right? I assign this ticket to myself. If we look at the workflow, which of course is completely configurable that I created for this app dev ticket, it follows the standard SDLC workflow, right? We go through business analysis, it goes through development, it goes to QA, it goes to E, and then at one point the product owner signs off. And then we get to the step in the workflow where from the workflow, I can create a change request which creates the CR in the Jira Service Management project. So let's do that. I'm going to advance this ticket through its various workflow steps. We go through the analysis, we go into development, and then maybe it goes back to QA analysis, a BA analysis. Maybe there's some refinement on the wireframing, etc. needed. Go back to development, and then eventually we start quality assurance testing. We get to the point where we can hand it over to user acceptance testing. So we just follow the regular SDLC. And from UAT, we obviously need that product owner sign off that we can now, from a PO perspective, a product owner perspective, deploy this piece of software that the team created to production. So what I'm doing now is from the workflow, I'm advancing the workflow to a next step, which I call it now goes to change approval. And what I'm doing now is I'm calling a so-called workflow transition screen. So this is a screen that I specifically created, right? This is a so-called workflow transition screen. Here I'm showing you the configuration of that screen. This is simply a screen that has those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields on it. That's really it. And in that workflow transition screen, I determine what data points does the CR that gets created in the Jira Service Management project require. Well, first of all, we need to tell it what is the type of change. In this case, we are deploying a normal change request, which follows its own normal change process. I, of course, would now put in some data with respect to the change justification. I put in the reason for the change. Maybe this is a new feature that we're deploying, and we have the change deployment start date, maybe December 23rd at 1:39 p.m., and the change deployment end date, maybe this is at 2:39 p.m., whatever it is. Change category, this is an application change, and we can now add additional comments. So upon clicking Create CR, what happens now is when I hit that button, now the integration between Jira and JSM kicks in. It now runs an automation that I created, which creates that change record triggered from a workflow transition and filling out a screen in Jira. It creates that CR seamlessly in Jira Service Management. So let's look at that automation for a moment. Now here's the automation that I created which allows me to automatically create a change request in my JSM project. It's quite simple. I'm setting a trigger. In this case, the trigger is a workflow transition. And I have two conditions. I'm creating CRs only for those work item types, also used to be called issue types. For example, if a bug is created or a task or subtask is created and transition its workflow, I don't want to create a CR. I only want to do it for that particular work item type. And in this case, it should create a normal change. So I'm also setting a condition where it should create a normal change when the change type, you remember I filled this out on the transition screen, when that equals normal change. Then I'm delaying the automation for a few seconds or a few seconds to let some other rules catch up. And then what I'm doing, the action is I'm creating a new work item in the target project, which is the ITSM JSM project. And in that project, I'm assigning it a issue type normal change, so it can follow its own workflow. And then I'm copying certain data points from that transition screen that I filled out in the Jira project onto the CR in the JSM project. Now let's look at the audit log. In the audit log, it said that this automation was successfully executed just a few minutes ago. It says success, and it shows that it created successfully the IT change record number 6. So let's look at that IT change record number 6. Here is the CR that is now created in the ITSM project automatically. And I automatically use the issue summary, work item summary from the app dev ticket and copy that over into the Jira Service Management change record. And other data points that I am copying from the automation, if we look at the automation rule again, those data points that I'm copying over here, the change type, the justification, reason for change, deployment start and end date, those data points are also copied over. Here's the change deployment, start date, end date, etc. So in summary, this solution, I think, is a very elegant solution that demonstrates the tight integration opportunities that we have in the Atlassian ecosystem. In this case, a fairly simple automation triggered from a workflow transition in a Jira workflow, creating a change record in JSM. And you see the various build elements that are summarized here. So it is a combination of a simple workflow, a workflow transition screen. Of course, we have to have the appropriate fields that need to be on the various screens. And then it's an automation that you see is not very complicated to write. So thank you very much for having joined me on this video. Hopefully you found this informative. It really is an example of the many integration examples that exist across the Atlassian ecosystem. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you on another video.